marinade, he was talking about Juan Manuel Lopez against Yorkis Gamboa, and they never did fight. We lost that fight. And you never know what could happen. You had surgery. Who knows what happened to Errol or what may happen to you in the future? So why make it wait as opposed to saying, hey, let's do it this year?
Well,
before we go on, we got a lot of things to talk about. I'm going to post a link to this full interview from that's Yahoo Sports. Kevin Iole. He covers mixed martial arts too. Very well respected boxing journalist. Been around for years. So I'm going to post a full interview down below. This is Keith Thurman's most recent interview somewhere down in Florida, I'm assuming, outside of an LA Fitness. And, you know, I have so many mixed thoughts, but I do understand what he's saying. Please subscribe. This is TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Just listen to this this brief part of him explaining why Errol Spence won't be in 2018, and I'll put my spin on it and tell you who he'll possibly be fighting and what he wants to do and blah, blah, blah.
First things first is we really want to bounce back in a tremendous fashion, you know. We want to just make sure that we're back completely. You know, I might not even fight anybody in the top 10 on my comeback fight. We'll have to see what we negotiate.
When you're champion, you have to fight somebody in the top 15 of, in his case, since he's WBC and WBA champion, in top 15 of those sanctioning bodies. So let's go look at the names, right? Just real quick before we go back. Let's go look at the names. So has to be one of these guys. Now, I'll update my rankings sometime in the next week or so. But for the most part, these are the names that will be available, give or take, you know, give or take maybe 2 to 4, something like that. So whoever he fights has to be one of these guys on May the 19th. It's not yet been official or confirmed that he's going to be fighting Jessie Vargas, the heavily rumored name. So let's go back to this.
But outside of that, if the next fight, should it really be the number 2 guy?
He's talking about the fight after his comeback fight. So let's run this back about 7 seconds.
Completely. You know, I might not even fight anybody in the top 10 on my comeback fight. We'll have to see what we negotiate. But outside of that, if the next fight, should it really be the number 2 guy? Should it really be the number 2 guy? I can go after somebody from the top 7 up, top 5 up.
So he's talking about his comeback fight is going to be somebody. His comeback fight, he said it could be somebody in the top 10. He said it might just be somebody in the top 15. I'm just paraphrasing. And then he said the fight after that, which will take place later on this year when he comes back. So he's fighting on May the 19th. In the Barclays Center in Brooklyn on Showtime. It's not confirmed yet who he's going to be fighting, but the name that's been circulating around, and everybody assumes it's going to be Jessie Vargas, who is ranked by both the WBC and the WBA. We're going to go look at it in a minute. He's saying the fight after that, later on in 2018, whether it's if he fights in May, he can fight in September, October, November, or December. Fighting in May and getting 2 more fights in after that, I don't think so, unless he fights in September, you know, like Mayweather would do, May and September. Then he could squeeze in 1 fight at the very end of the year, like one of the last couple of weeks of the year, but that's highly unlikely, you know. So he's saying his fight after, if it is Jessie Vargas or whoever he fights on May the 19th, is going to be ranked somewhere in the top 10 or top 15 of one of those sanctioning bodies, and then the fight after that later on this year, he's saying top 7, top 5. So he's saying, should it really be the number 2 guy? You know, after him, he's considering Errol Spence to be the number 2 champion at 147 pounds, which he is. You have Keith Thurman, who's the WBC, WBA. He's number 1. You have Errol Spence, the IBF. He's number 2. And then Jeff Horns, the WBO, who's number 3. We're not even going to mention Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford's not going to get any of these guys this year. And I highly likely, I doubt if he'll probably get one of them in 2019. Maybe it'll be Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. You know, whoever's at 147 over on the Heyman side. He'll probably get one of them, but I doubt it'll be a Keith Thurman. Let's continue. Let's run back like 7 seconds again so you can catch up to where I'm at. Once again, I'm going to post a full interview down below in the description box. We're just going over this one part and where he's given his logic on why he's not fighting Errol Spence this year.
The number 2 guy. I can go after in a tremendous fashion, you know. We want to just make sure that we're back completely. Want to bounce back in a tremendous fashion, you know. We want to just make sure that we're back completely. You know, I'm not even going to fight. I might not even fight anybody in the top 10 on my comeback fight. We'll have to see what we negotiate. But outside of that, if the next fight, should it really be the number 2 guy? Should it really be the number 2 guy? I can go after somebody from the top 7 up, top 5 up, but should it be the number 2 guy? And we can actually let it marinate. I don't, you know, what I like using Errol's nickname. I like the fact that he calls himself the truth, because the truth is, if he's the truth, he ain't going nowhere. If he's the truth, he ain't going nowhere. I already established my position. I'm not going nowhere. So if he's the truth, he ain't going nowhere. There should be nothing y'all are worried about. You shouldn't be worried about none. He shouldn't be worried about none. I shouldn't be worried about none. Handle business, put some money in the bank. We will give you guys a good fight later this year. It most likely will not be the Spence fight. But after that, going into the next year, after I perform twice this year, because another thing, to be honest with you, it's been several years since I performed 2 times in 1 year.
All right.
I had a car accident with Sean Porter, you know. Then I was negotiating the Danny Garcia fight. He was having a tune-up. I told Al Heyman, I don't want a tune-up. I'm just going to wait for our date. As long as it's early, within the first quarter next year, I'll be okay with that date. I can just wait it out. And that's what I did. So this year, I really just want to prove to myself that I can step back in the ring twice a year. I can be a little bit more active. And then after that, me and my team will be open to negotiate any fight.
Well, all right, we're going to stop it right there. So I guess, okay. I've had the pleasure to talk to Keith Thurman many, many, many times. At one point in time, in a very intimate section, in a very intimate style where all the media had cleared out, and I forgot what I was doing. I think I was hanging around because I had to wait for a train or something. So then the PR people was like, hey, do you guys want to come back and talk to Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman? And it was only maybe about 4 or 5 media members left at that time. So we got a chance to really, really talk to him. And this was over a year ago. This was Thurman Garcia fight week. So over the last year, especially since the injury, and having a chance to talk to him in October at the Iris Lindy Lara card in Charlo card in a Hurd card in New York, it just really, really, really seems like Keith Thurman is losing his passion for the sport. And I'm looking at what he's doing this year with these 2 fights that he wants, that he said he doesn't really want to fight top competition. He's going to fight guys that are ranked, but you clearly hear him and you can interpret that he's saying that he wants to pick who he wants to fight, and he wants to show himself that he can still do it. You know, it doesn't seem like the same hungry fighter that he was.
A couple more questions, Keith, if you don't mind.
It doesn't seem like he's the same hungry fighter he was, you know, when he was trying to get guys like Paulie Malignaggi and Robert Guerrero and trying to get Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather was, you know, super champion, and he was world, but he wouldn't be made the mandatory because it was Floyd Mayweather. It seems like something is totally, you know, different, you know. But Jessie Vargas is not a tune-up fight, and with this mentality, even though Keith Thurman is good, he doesn't seem confident that, you know, he can beat the top guys. It just seems that way. You know, I don't know for sure. Maybe this is him. You know, he's a spiritual dude, you know, playing the flute and, you know, shit like that. Handmade fucking, you know, knitting shit, you know. So, you know, he be meditating and all that, you know, like maybe he just realizes that at this point in time in life, and he's the type of guy that you can see, he don't spend a lot of money. You got to chase him down for an interview. Put it this way. He's very open when you catch him in public or when you catch him at an event. He'll talk to you for a long ass time. You know, I've learned that. Fucking like 40 minutes at one point in time. But, you know, he doesn't do anything extra. You know, like he's just a regular dude. But when it comes to boxing, maybe Keith Thurman is one of those type of guys that he's made all the money he actually, you know, wants to make. And that money that he has, it's a lot. You know, and it can last him for the rest of his life if he do the right things with it, which it don't seem like he won't be doing the right things with it. So it's really going to be interesting to see him back in the ring, you know, in May, to see what type of temperament he has and what happens if he gets the knockout. How does that change his mentality? Because right now, let's go look at the landscape and who he can fight. So let's go full screen here. I should get a sound effect, right? So when you're a champion, you have to fight somebody in the top 15. These are the top 15. I have now, the rankings haven't been updated yet. They'll be fully updated by we're going to say the next week or so. WBA, WBC champion. Here are the names. Let's go through the process of elimination. This guy is hoping to be Keith Thurman's second fight right here, Sean Porter. He is the mandatory for Keith Thurman when it comes to that WBC. Something has been going on that we're trying to get clarification for, where Angel Garcia said that Keith Thurman, hold on, excuse me. We're going to do it this way. Angel Garcia, TstreeT, Thurman. Let's do it this way. Hold on. I'm looking, this is very relevant. Right here. We're not going to, damn it, I don't want to play fight hypes. Here's my version, right here. Where's the video? Well, anyway, on Angel Garcia's Instagram, he put out a video the week after. Y'all probably seen it already. The week after, here it is. No, is this me? Where am I at? Well, anyway, it's all over the internet. You can go find it yourself. But he put out a video the week after Danny Garcia had lost to Keith Thurman, saying that there was a rematch clause, and then he took it down. You know, why would he say that? So this week, when I talked to Angel Garcia, right now it's February the 6th, 10:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Friday, February the 9th, Danny Garcia is having a media workout. So I want to try to ask, like, what was that, you know, video you said about the rematch clause? So the point I'm trying to make is, Keith Thurman likely, if he wins against whoever he fights when he returns, May the 19th on Showtime 2018 in the Barclays Center, he's going to either fight Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios winner, if it's Danny Garcia or Sean Porter, who's the mandatory. Sean Porter is dealing with some type of hand injury that he's doing a real good job keeping quiet, but also he's saying that he's not going to be fighting at all until he gets Keith Thurman. He don't want no other fights until he gets Keith Thurman, and he has the right to do that, beating the silver champion and becoming the mandatory. So he has a right to do that, but people are also on his top. It's like, yo, well, wait a minute, you free, and Errol Spence is Errol Spence is free, even though it's mandatory. It's Carlos Ocampo. Why don't you fight? Why don't you fight him, Sean Porter? But that's a whole different video. You can take Manny Pacquiao out of the equation, obviously. Now let's look at the names. This guy right here, Ray Robinson, is fighting to be the next, is fighting to be a potential IBF mandatory for the future for their title after Carlos Ocampo. You know, so, and then you got Konstantin Palmarev. I doubt that he'll fight him. And then you got a guy like Adrian Granados. Why would he fight Adrian Granados when a Sean Porter, you know, beat him? You know, I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they did this fight, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they did Adrian Granados. You got him who's fighting this weekend or next weekend. I believe he's fighting next weekend on the Ray Beltran card. I'm going to check him out. And then look at these names, you know. So you do have Jessie Vargas here, ranked number 4. And then when you go over here, now remember my rankings are not up to date. So you have Lucas Matisse, who is now the WBA world champion, but don't expect him to be fighting Keith Thurman. Don't expect it. And, I mean, just look at these names. You know, so Keith Thurman could be returning against, you know, maybe Fabian Madonna brother. Would they do that to him? That'd be a tough fight, though. You know, young fighter. You know, I mean, look at these names. Samuel Vargas, who Danny Garcia beat. You know, so when he returns, he's going to fight one of these names, the winner of either Sean Porter or Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios winner if it's Danny Garcia. And if he wants to, he could fight an Errol Spence, you know, because of unification. Put it this way, Sean Porter would have to approve if he fights Danny Garcia or something. It's a weird situation, but trust me, we're trying to get some answers. You know, but Keith Thurman can fight Errol Spence, but he doesn't want to fight Errol Spence. Errol Spence, by the way, returns that next month. They're keeping him on the same schedule. Errol Spence returns June in Dallas. This is his mandatory. I really feel that he's likely going to fight him. You know, unless, you know, Sean Porter gets offered the Errol Spence fight. You know, it depends. You can't really talk about Jeff Horn and Terrence Crawford because we got to see what happens with them, and they're on the outside looking in. That's cross-network promotional mumbo jumbo bullshit right there. So, like I said, you know, I'm wondering about I have some fears about Keith Thurman, where he seemed like the type of guy that after 2019 he'll fucking around and retire. You know, he can say, well, yeah, you know, especially like imagine if he were to go on to, you know, do his plan. And if he were to go on to fight a Sean Porter or Danny Garcia later on this year, beat them again, right, make a whole bunch of more money, because technically those fights are still bigger than the Errol Spence fight, and the Errol Spence fight is getting bigger. But either way, if he fights Sean Porter again or Danny Garcia later on this year, it's a bigger fight. But let's say, you know, if the stars align for Keith Thurman, he goes on and beats Jessie Vargas in May. He goes on to fight Sean Porter, beats him in the rematch in November or December. And then he goes on to fight Errol Spence in like April or something in a mega fight that's going to take place in Brooklyn or Las Vegas or something like that. He goes on to beat him. I wouldn't be surprised if Keith Thurman would have retired, you know, and be like, yeah, you know, I'm not really concerned about a Terrence Crawford or a Jeff Horn who has that belt. I don't know. He just seems like he's done with the sport, in my opinion. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. I'm going to put the link to that interview right down below in the description box. It is to be announced. We know he's returning May the 19th. We just don't know against who yet. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live.